Ludwig von Mises, in his book Human Action, said, quote, "Thinking and acting are inseparable. Man is not a passive observer, but of necessity always an actor," end quote. Hi, I'm Jolene at Lady of the Hoddle, and I'm one of the two witnesses in the book of Revelation. And I want to show you that you are a man that acts, and that the only way to life is to use your mind to think about your actions and to align your thoughts and actions with the truth. In the previous lesson, we finished our discussion on sense perception, and we applied what we learned to knowing God. You have to know something before that you know that God exists. In this video series, I seek to teach you the foundations of knowledge so that you can reason to the real God. Today, we're going to begin our talk about volition. Does man make choices? So let's take it to the whiteboard. Hi, welcome to Lesson 7 of Christian Objectivism. Today, we're going to begin our discussion, the first of two videos on volition. And volition can be found on pages 55 through 72 of OPAR. The big question today is, does man choose? Does man make a choice? And the simple answer is yes, absolutely. And it's self-evident. You can know man makes a choice through direct observation. For example, I can pick up my cup and I can set it down. I made that choice, both of those choices. I can open and close my eyes. I can choose to watch a video on YouTube. I can choose to think about what I want to do next after making this video. Man makes a choice, and everything that he does is a choice. If you deny that you have a choice, then what drives your actions? It doesn't make sense. To deny that you have a choice, you have to make a choice to think that, to assert that, right? If we didn't have a choice, then we'd be no better than a rock. And what's the point of convincing me that I do or do not have a choice, right? By nature, man is free to make a choice. And in the book, Free, it says, quote, "Selected from two or more courses possible under the circumstances." So you have more than one thing you choose from. In such a case, the difference is made by the individual's decision, which did not have to be what it is, i.e., which could have been otherwise, end quote. So the literal meaning of a choice is you have two or more options, and then you have to choose from them. So the first step here is to recognize that you do make a choice. I mean, even the word choice, that the word choice is in our language, is evidence. Like, it's a word that defines a concept, right? If we didn't have a choice, then why do we have the word choice in our language? It's literally describing something that's in our language, in our environment, in creation. And the fundamental choice that you have before all others is whether to use your mind or not to make those choices. Our consciousness is active, not passive, or at least you want to be active in your consciousness and not passive. Rand says your primary choice is to focus your mind or your consciousness. So let's try it. So close your eyes for a second to give it a break. Open them up. Now try to unfocus your vision. You kind of have to, I have to go cross-eyed in order to unfocus, and then you can refocus. But you literally choose to do that. Your mind is controlling your vision and choosing to focus or unfocus. Now, your thought is like that, where you can choose to focus your mind. You can be fully aware of what's around you, or you can kind of drift out of focus and not be paying attention to the things around you or thinking about it. Jonathan Edwards, in his book, Freedom of the Will, said, quote, "It is not the will that chooses, but the man who chooses by his will, as the man sees by his eye," end quote. So you choose according to your will. You will to act just like your eye sees. And the choice belongs to a person, an individual. The responsibility is yourself. You, viewer, you make a choice, and you are responsible for that choice and all of your choices. Mises, in his book Human Action, also said, quote, "Human action is purposeful behavior." Or we may say, action is will put into operation and transformed into an agency, end quote. So to sum that up, to live, to have life, to live is to act. And to act is to choose. Every action you take, you make a choice. And that's what it means to live. And to live is to act. If you didn't have a choice, then you'd be acting without reason, which is literally insanity. If you're acting without reason, then it's insanity. But the fact is, you do choose. You do have reason. And when you realize that, when you realize that you do have a choice and everything you do is a choice, then you can learn to choose and reason well. The core of volition is to commit to the truth and to have your reason rooted in reality. On page 70, I want to read just a little paragraph here. You, the reader, can perceive every potentiality I have been discussing simply by observing your own consciousness. The extent of your knowledge or intelligence is not relevant here. It's not about how much you know. Because the issue is whether you use whatever knowledge and intelligence you do possess. At this moment, for example, you can decide to read attentively and struggle to understand, judge, apply the material. Or you can let your attention wander and the words wash over you, half getting some points, then coming to for a few sentences, then lapsing again into partial focus. If something you read makes you feel fearful or uneasy, you can decide to follow the point anyway and consider it on its merits. Or you can brush it aside by an act of evasion, while mumbling some rationalization to still any pangs of guilt. At each moment, every moment, you are deciding to think or not to think. The fact that you regularly make these kinds of choices is directly accessible to you, as it is to any volitional consciousness. You're always making a choice. Now, if it seems so easy, and to me, like, it's obvious, right? It might sound silly to talk about whether or not you make a choice. But I have to tell you, there's people who actually are confused about whether or not you make choices, and they question that. Neil deGrasse Tyson has a show called Star Talk, and there's an episode where he claims that free will or choice is an illusion. He said, quote, laws of physics determine the future, end quote. And he's saying that you don't have a choice. We're just little atoms bouncing around and things just happen, which is totally denying reality. Also, the Mahdi Abba al-Sadiq has videos, and one of them is called Response to the Letter of a Sex Worker in Iran. And in that video, he responds to a message by a woman who went into prostitution out of poverty. And in that video, he affirms over and over again that she's not responsible for her choices. And he blames everybody else that she is in that position. He said that the people in society took, other people, like the rich, took more than their fair share. Rather than saying she should earn her own living, everybody else is supposed to be giving to her what she does not deserve. He literally calls her a sinless woman, that he respects and admires her for what she's doing, and that she's a national hero for it. So not only is he saying it's not her choice, but he's commending her for all the wrong choices. And what's worse, in that video, he calls the scholars, the intelligent and the hardworking, the ones who are evil, and they're to blame for all the things going wrong in society. This is the voice, the Mahdi. His voice, what he is saying, he's the literal Antichrist from the book of Revelation. He denies moral responsibility of volition, and it's literally the father of lies. So, if man doesn't choose, and it just happens, then how can people be held responsible for their actions, for their choices? The justice system wouldn't make sense. Like, why would we punish people if people weren't responsible for their choices? If they didn't have a choice, they're not responsible, then why would they receive punishment? That's why this is relevant to modern society. And it's relevant even to the secular scientists, because they're trying to figure out what's just and what's behind the question, do we make choices? So let me remind you that there are only two gods. There's the God of reason, the God of choice, and that you're responsible for your choices. It's all over the Bible, all over Scripture. And then there's Satan, the father of lies, and he's going to lie to you about whether you or not have a choice and deny reality. The same going along again with the Mahdi, who's literally speaking the lies of Satan. In the Bible, Joshua 24:15 says, Choose this day whom you will serve. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. So in sum of this lesson, man makes a choice, and it's self-evident. You can observe it you can pick up a book and you can set it down. So in our next video, we're going to talk about the implications. Man does make a choice. So then what should we know because of that? How or what should we choose? Thank you for watching today's video. Give it a like and subscribe to see the next videos to come. We'll see you next time.